This podcast right here is just for entertainment purposes. I am not a medical doctor, not a nutritionist, or a personal trainer. I am barely fucking qualified to operate a toaster. As Ruth Langmore so wisely said, I don't know shit about fuck, so don't trust me, don't listen to me. We're here just for shits and giggles. And if you trust me with health advice, then that's just natural selection at work. Don't do drugs, always listen to your GP. And with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of the Opticcast with me, Nathan.
And me, Aubrey.
Guys, we're super excited for this episode. In this episode, we're going to be answering some of the questions that have been sent to me by clients, as well as some other people online on Instagram and things like that, on training. So we're going to be covering training itself. What is our first question?
You mentioned I was positioning my feet on the hack squat in a way where my knees were moving back and disengaging my quads. How do I learn how to position something to assure my muscle always lengthen?
Okay, so the question here on the hack squat is that whenever you are doing a hack squat, if you position your feet too far back, it may get to a point that as you're coming down, your knees actually bounce back. So it looks like this, and then your knees do this. They just bounce a little bit farther back. And basically, the distance between the knees and the hip joint shortens for a little bit. And at the entirety of the movement, as you're coming down, that distance is actually increasing. So it's creating that sensation that you get of the stretch because it's actually stretching the muscle. We want to maximize this position to maximize our chances of getting a better hypertrophic outcome. So it's not so much of like doing something wrong or anything like that. It's more about the purpose of why we're doing it, which is hypertrophy. But also, we want to be able to reach those positions for the purpose of injury prevention. You see, one of the issues that people have is that they tend to just train with shortened ranges of motion, and that ends up, the result of that is that you don't have a lot of strength and you don't really get to practice pushing a lot of load or being under a lot of tension in those particular rep ranges. So if it happens in real life that you fall or that you need to activate a specific range like really quickly or something like that, well, in that case, you may just not like be prepared for that. So we want to make sure that we are actually prepared for that as well. So those are the two purposes as to why we want to maximize the range of motion here. It's for hypertrophy, but also for just real life in general. With this right here, the tip really is relatively simple. Or if you have not tried lifting shoes, you should try lifting shoes first, as they will increase your range of motion a little bit. But generally speaking, just placing your foot slightly more to the front, it's going to get rid of that knee bouncing back at the beginning of at the bottom of the repetition. So just putting your feet slightly to the front. If you put it too much, you end up activating a lot of glute and hamstrings with the exercise, and we don't want to do that on a quad exercise. So just a little bit, like this much. Move your feet by this much, and you may get that particular result that you're looking for.
Does this applies to pendulum too, right?
Pendulum it does apply to the pendulum as well. Yeah,
you've critiqued my form there, where I can get down all the way like into a literal squat position, you know. But then at the very bottom, I was doing this thing where I would like go down and there's a little like boo-doo, like this little like bouncing type of thing at the bottom of each rep. And I basically just have to prevent myself from going down that far in the squat, which makes it suck more. But I still struggle to feel my chest in exercises. It feels like a lot of focus to get my pecs to turn on. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, so one, feeling doesn't really equate growth. So we have to be mindful of that you just because you don't feel it doesn't mean that's not being worked. However, poor feeling usually is correlated with poor growth. You talk to guys that don't really feel their pecs, they generally speaking have better triceps and better shoulders. And they usually have a little bit more of a hunched like just stance, so to speak. So you just got to keep those two things in mind. And I believe that going for the feeling is important, but you shouldn't just try to get a particular feeling, because we can actually manufacture that feeling without, creating more tension. For instance, if you were to like hold yourself tight like this, you could like maximize the amount of feeling that you get on your chest by just holding it in this way. But that doesn't mean you're growing by just fucking holding it this way, even if you're just doing this. So it's not the same thing. You're on a bike, you can feel your quads burning because you're spinning very fast and you're pedaling very fast. But that doesn't mean that your quads are growing compared to doing 6 reps on a leg extension. 6 reps on a leg extension, you probably won't feel much. but you will. But like 4 reps. You probably won't feel much with 4 reps, but you will feel with the bike. Doesn't mean that the bike is better for growth. So just got to keep those 2 things in mind first.
Do you think this person is equating feeling with engagement? Because engagement has to happen, right?
Yeah, and engagement will happen by definition. Like if you're able to perform an exercise in a particular range, like the muscles involved in this movement will be active. So they will be doing something. What this person is saying is like, well, I have trouble feeling my chest primarily when I'm doing this motion. So it could be that this person is feeling more on the shoulder. It could be that this person is feeling more on the triceps. And the answer to the question is like, do you have any advice for me? I answered this question on the check-in for this person, but if I don't know what your pressing looks like, I can't know whether I can like.
That's what
I even know like what to look for. You
yeah,
know?
because normally, like if you were to rephrase the question, it would be, I am using my shoulder to move the weight.
Yeah.
My shoulder is taking over.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But you kind of have to verify that, especially if this person has this issue as an ongoing thing. You need to review. And often you say, oh, I see that whenever you're doing it, once you get up to like, rep 11 of this set, your shoulders are taking over or whatever is taking over. You should reduce the weight a little bit and then focus on just utilizing your back. And you'll get feedback like that.
Yeah, so like the first thing that I would look at is like, how are we doing the warm-ups, right? So there may be that just person is just warming up the shoulders, but they're not doing anything to do their chest. So like one of the things that I like to do is I start like any machine that I have with like pretty much no weight, just focusing on the squeeze, just remembering what the cues are for that. And then like progressively increasing the weight and lowering the amount of reps. You don't want to get fatigued. You don't want to get to that like 6 to 4 reps in reserve in a warm-up set. You don't want to get that far. So like once I get to my last set, which is my working weight, I'll do 1 to 2 reps max, right? Because I don't want to be fatigued. I want to have more strength for the actual set. So that's the first thing that I would look at. The second thing that I would look at is like, okay, so we got a good warm-up routine in place, good mobility and warm-up for you to access those ranges. And I would say mobility is important for some people as well, not just the warming up. So in the activation exercises, like we can try a couple of things here and there. Like one of the things that I have been doing now for the left side of my chest, which I have an imbalance here due to a dislocated clavicle, is that on this side, I will just hold my hand against a surface and I would just literally just try to squeeze it with my chest as if I'm trying to make my arm move in this direction without making this movement. So I'm not pivoting. I'm basically trying to move it like from the shoulder itself, everything in. And it just lights the fuck out of my chest. And after doing that for like 15 seconds twice, I can like, I'm very aware of what my chest is doing. And my chest is not fatigued. And now I can jump into a set, You know
what's interesting?
Yeah, what?
I thought of the same type of exercise, but it was like this funny thing we used to do as kids where you would stand in a normal sized doorway, like that one's too wide, but whatever. You'd stand in a normal sized doorway. You'd put the backs of your hands against it and you'd press and you hold it for 30 seconds, pressing as hard as you can. And then when you went out, your arms would do this. And it was like magic, But I was like, oh my gosh, that could be a good similar thing for like side raises or something.
Yeah, I mean,
to get your shoulders, if somebody needed that, I don't know.
So that's the second thing that I would look at is the activation exercises, right? We may incorporate a couple of things with, the position of your scapula. We may incorporate a couple of repetitions on a cable. We may do like, there are several different things. It just depends on how this person is built. I don't want to just give a blank statement here of what to do. After that, we want to look at the exercise order, because it may be that if this person is feeling, for instance, their triceps too much, there's like, okay, like maybe we can put a fly first, right? And then from that, like they were just focusing on the squeeze and the stretch, just like very, very, very easy to feel the chest because it's so isolated, that then we can move to a press where we already are very aware of what's happening in our chest. Now, like for myself, like one of the things that I swapped is I used to do lateral raises before chest. That works very well if I'm not starting with the fly. If I started with the fly, I noticed that my front delt used to be very, very fatigued and just light up to the point that I couldn't feel my chest anymore. And for a couple of weeks, I noticed that my left chest just like almost regressed a little bit. And so I just made the decision to push that to the end, which makes it so that I had to do a little bit more warming up of my shoulders. but my connection with my chest like improved so much. So just the exercise order itself can be something to change. Now, don't go just changing all of those 4 things at once, because it may just like, then if it works, you don't know why it worked.
Yeah.
People are like, oh yeah, but it fucking worked. I was like, yeah. But you're not thinking about what to do for the next 2 weeks. You're thinking about what to do for the next 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know that certain strategies may not work 3 years down the road, and you need to know what have you already tried and what was the outcome. That's what like we do as coaches. We're like writing all of this stuff that even you're not keeping track of. So clients sometimes come and is like, hey, do you remember this when this happened? And like, yep, I remember. So you want to keep that type of data for you and make the particular adjustments like as necessary with the least invasive to the most invasive. Basically changing the program would be the most invasive one, right? That's the idea. But yeah, good question.
You recently posted a video of your legs shaking while doing an exercise, RDLs, I believe. I also just experienced this doing RDLs. What are, if any, the possible issues with this? Also, why are my legs doing that?
Yeah, so that's actually normal, and you know it's part of it. If you have it under control, it's just you have like extremely high neural demands and mechanical loading demands. And a lot of times you already did other exercises before, and the stability requirements of an RDL is already pretty high. So you have multiple joints working together, and you're hinging in a way that you're not used to doing it in regular life and everything. So it's hard. It's not an exercise where you go up and down. It's an exercise where you go back and up. It's so weird, like how you actually, like what you're actually doing compared to what it looks like you're doing at first glance. So it's entirely normal, and it just all of these things combined make for the RDL be a good like shaking like possible combo, so to speak. Now to say shaking can also be a problem if stability cannot be in place anymore, right? So like for instance, let's say you did just 10 sets of quads. Your quads are fucking smoked. You did calves before you did all of this because your calves are behind. And then now you're going to jump on the hamstrings. The hamstrings are antagonists to the quads, but they also required your calves to be there to be stabilizing muscles, right? So if you're coming with everything else already smoked and you're just going to do this, I'm like, you're not. Your hamstrings can take a 315 RDL, but the thing is, can your other muscles do it as well? Right? It's just like if you try to do an RDL after you did back extensions. It's like you just trained your lumbar. It's going to be very hard for you to actually like stimulate the hamstrings themselves. So it can be something, but it's like it can be a problem, but it's not so dangerous, so to speak. Like the likelihood that you're going to dislocate your humerus from your hip socket is very low. But if you can think on a different exercise to answer the question of whether shaking is a problem, like what if you're doing incline dumbbell presses, right? Like at this point, like the shaking can actually be a problem, right?
Yeah,
because you could hurt your shoulder. I have had times that the weight just tilted back so much, and to bring it back, you're essentially doing like that warm up that you see a lot of people doing at the gym. But the thing is, like, you're not meant to like we're
do
not
it with
used
that
to
much weight.
Yeah, I mean, not that you're not meant to. I've seen people doing it, but like I wasn't used to pulling 120 pounds like this way. Not that I was lifting 120 pounds, but you figure out you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, it's possible that could be one of the issues. Like for myself, I shake a lot because I did actually dislocate my fucking humerus from my hip socket. So that did happen. And because of that, like not my humerus, my fucking femur, right? Sorry. So like that did happen, and it just makes it very hard for me to actually hold that leg in place, which just so happens to be on the left side. Everything is fucked on the left side except for my calves.
Your calves are perfect.
My calves are on the left side are absolutely perfect. So yeah, it can be a problem, but it's not really a problem for most people. If you want to solve that, usually having hamstrings before quads solves that, right? Now, if you have weak quads, not really a possibility for you. But in general, I meet very few people that have better hamstrings than quads. Like I don't know. I can think of one person off the top of my head that I'm like, oh, your hamstrings are so much better than your quads. So you could actually have hamstrings afterwards. For the majority of people, you could be doing hamstrings on leg day and on back day, and it still would be like probably not enough to bring up the hamstrings because they're small little shallow muscles that takes a whole lot of time for them to become bubbly and round. Now, Another way that you could possibly go by addressing this is by just having like 2 separate days for legs. So having 1 day for quad and 1 day for hamstrings. That allows you to just focus on the hamstrings, and then doing something like a lengthened exercise first, like a seated leg extension, and then going to do your RDL, so that you're not doing it entirely cold, but you're also already stretched out a little bit, just because there is the possibility of, rupturing the biceps tendon on like right here, which you don't really want to do that.
Biceps femoris or something like that?
Yeah, biceps femoris.
Femoris.
So it could happen. So we just want to be careful with that. But yeah, this is a good question.
Do you know why I know that? Because I look at the machines from the 80s that have like the diagram and they list like each of the muscles.
Yeah, the Camstar machines.
I need to go back to school. How sore should you feel after a workout? Is there any way to overdo it?
Okay, so soreness is not a marker of hypertrophy or of strength adaptation. So that's just one thing you have to keep in mind. You being sore does not mean that you are growing. I don't know why people still fixate on this, but people will like come and say like, man, like I'm feeling super sore now that I changed my program. I'm like, you changed your program. Of course you're sore. Like that just happens. Now the body adapts to the demands imposed onto it very, very quickly, which means you won't be sore forever. Now I've heard people saying it's like, oh, if you're never sore, that's a problem. How so? Like how so is that a problem? Now, like you can say something like, well, if you're never imposing demands yet you're not exposed to it, say by like adding another set, so to speak. I mean, I've had body parts that I went over 30 sets and I still not sore. So what should I do? Should it be like doing fucking 50 sets per body part? Should I just do drop sets because that makes me sore? I don't think chasing soreness is something good at all. Now, feeling tightness or heaviness, that is a sign that you actually did stimulate the muscles. That is different from being sore. It's just feeling a little bit like your legs feel a little bit heavy, like after a leg day or like after a long walk or something like that, or like you feel like extending your arms, like you can't extend all the way because like your biceps are like a little bit tight, or your back, like you're just feeling like what the fuck, like it's just something, it just feels a little bit more stiff. That is a good sign, but that there's like stimulus, but that's not a sign that there's damage. Like the feeling sore for multiple days, that's a sign that actual damage has occurred. And the problem is that if your body is recovering from damage, your body is not adapting for the purpose of hypertrophy. It's one or the other. That's why when you just fucking get stabbed, you don't grow massive muscles because your body is repairing from damage. Like, oh yeah, you really fucked it up. I bet you're going to be sore, but you're not going to grow, right? So you have to generate a stimulus, but not necessarily obliterate the muscle. You want to stimulate, not obliterate.
How do you know when an exercise is damaging to you? Form, weight, prior injuries, and what else might affect this?
If it hurts with time, you're going to be able to start telling whether it is a normal pain, if it's a little bit odd, but not really something to worry about, or if it is something like, okay, this is a problem. This is really a problem. This shouldn't feel this way. And like joint pain is never a good thing, but you could have joint pain just because you started taking Retta and now you started peeing more often, and you have less water retention in your joints. Could be that you started taking, an anabolic steroid that depletes your body of water, or by lowering your estrogen. So it could just be that your estrogen is low, but that doesn't mean that your joints are actually suffering more. It just means that you're feeling more. So you have to disconnect a little bit the feeling from that. And also, on the research of pain, I'm going to keep hammering this. We know for a fact that just because you feel pain in this area does not mean that you have a problem in this area. We can do a bunch of imaging. It does not mean that you have something going on there. It could be a neural thing. It could just be a nerve like hitting something, and it doesn't on the majority of people. Like there's so many reasons why you may be feeling pain. Now, okay, what can you do to actually drive away pain because you don't want to have pain? One, like if it depends on the cause, right? So if the cause of the joint pain is that, you say you started taking red, I was like, okay, we probably need to replenish your electrolytes and just bump up the water quantity. So let's say you go from a gallon to a gallon and a half, 2 gallons of water a day. If it's because of estrogen, you could just bring this person's estrogen up by whatever means you know to how to do that. If it is just an issue of like, man, I just feel like a little bit of like like hurts or stuff, you can try to desensitize that spot. So that works a lot with like elbow issues. If you just find the little spot where that pain is coming from and you move slightly closer to the muscle than the joint and you press and you hold there for a little bit, if you're able to do that like very, very strongly, you're going to lose the pain sensation here for a little bit. Then you can jump on your set and do that. Now, if what you're doing under the bar is not causing this, no problem. But what if it is? Like if it is, then just driving away the pain is actually going to make the pain come back worse. So that is why whenever I'm treating injury, we want to assess how you're feeling during the session, before the session, and also 24, 48 hours afterwards. You want to have that information in place so that you know whether the stimulation was something that was good, whether it was bad, whether it needed more, whether it needed less, and so forth and so on. But okay, how do you drive it away? In general, warm-ups drive away pain. So, you know, like when you go to a leg day and you're just like feeling your joints just a little bit weird, but you get to your last set and shit's moving smooth as butter.
Yes.
Like you could probably do more sets to warm up. Like you'll benefit from that more. Now, the negative of that is that you spend more time at the gym, but possibly you could like have more time training by doing that because you don't have to worry about the injury or something like that. Another thing that you can do is raise your rep ranges. So we talked about how we did it with Aubrey before. Just moving your rep ranges, if you're doing like 6 to 10, move them up to like 12 to 15, or like you can go as high as like 25 to 30. But the jump from 6 to 10 to 25 to 30 at once, it's a lot to deal with. And you may not need all of the fatigue that comes with doing those high reps. So just move a little bit. Again, remember, do small adjustments, and those small adjustments should be able to carry you a long way. And if you continue encountering that same issue, then you can move the rep ranges once more. So that would be the first thing that we do is the actual warm-ups. The second thing that we do is actually positioning of the joint and cueing, right? So we want to look at the exercise and you want to think like, okay, what are the angle that the loads are coming from? This gets a little bit like granular as we're talking about this, right? Because you can think like, okay, I'm getting the tendinopathy on my elbow. Okay, what exercise do you do? Oh, pull downs. It's like, okay, use a bar, use a rope. Because if you use a rope, you don't really have a lot of like lateral forces. But if you use a bar, you do have a lot of lateral forces holding the elbow in place, right? So it's like, you got to think a little bit about that. But let's just use an easy example that I see all the time. It's like you're doing leg extensions and you feel pain on your knees. Okay, try to move your feet just slightly out. Does that make it better or worse? Makes it a little bit better. Okay, try a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's pretty fucking good. Now you may find that like you have to get the joint in such a way that you can only do it unilateral. So you do it unilateral. That's okay, right? So if it happens that you can't leg press with your legs open, but you can if your leg is in front of you, you can do closed stance. Or if you need to hit more of the posterior part of it in your glutes and in your adductors, you want to just do it single legged. And you can do a single leg press, like super freaking easy. But that's the positioning is one of the easiest things to do. And then the second one is cueing, right? The cueing can be very helpful, just thinking about how you're doing it, right? So say a guy that's moving the weight all the way to the back here on a chest press, and they feel like joint pain in the bottom end. I can say like, hey, don't think about actually pressing. Think about just trying to make your biceps meet, right? Like just doing this as opposed to doing this. Like try to think about those things as you're doing it. Or could be something like, let's actually like think about putting your gears in reverse instead of putting it in first, right? So don't put it in first gear and just go like, boom. Just think about like reversing it and slowly moving it up. Like that's the cueing can be a little bit helpful as well. Like one of the things that you can assess like how quality someone is with training, with coaching and stuff is like by how many cues they have. Because it's like you can accumulate so many of them and one of them should resonate with you. After that, we would look at exercise order. So again, like let's say you're having issues with pain in the knee from the leg extension. Okay, try to do the leg press before the leg extension. Does that make it better? It's a little bit better, but not much. It was like, okay, what if we just like maintain this order, but then we add the leg curls that come after this, and we put the leg curls first. So now you have basically two movements that are warming up the knee for the leg extension. Now we tried that, and guess what? Now it works. You don't have a problem anymore. So it's like super easy. And then you could be like, oh, but I'm not getting enough stimulus, and the hamstrings are getting more stuff. Overthinking it for the majority of people, like true. But if you need to do something, you can add one set of quad and remove one set of hamstring. So instead of doing 3 sets of lying curls and then at the end doing 3 sets of seated curls, you could do 2 sets of lying curls, and then at the end do 4 sets of seated curls. And instead of doing 3 leg presses and 3 leg extensions, you could do 4 leg presses and 3 leg extensions, right? That's just an easy way to think about. Finally, the thing that I would change after all of this, and only at this point, I would change the exercise itself. Because I want you to actually be able to be strong in a variety of settings. And if every time that you encounter a challenge or face pain, you have to just be removed from that, you're never going to develop a body that's resilient towards injury for longevity, right? Like we're not just thinking about looking good. We actually want to feel good in life.
Or learn how to problem solve. And
learn
you
how
can
to problem
really
solve as well.
limit
Yeah,
yourself at the
absolutely,
gym.
But the learning how to problem solve is more of a coaching side, not as much of an execution side. But if it, for the people that do self-coach, like you do want to learn how to solve these problems by making the least amount of adjustments as possible. And if I'm going to change the exercise, like it may be that we're not able to change much, right? So like, okay, for a leg extension that we're hitting right the middle of the quad here, like what can we do that actually hits that? It's like there isn't much, but you can ask the client if they tried other exercises. For example, for myself, a hip press stimulates the fuck out of this muscle for me, like just so much. So I could do, instead of moving to have like more sets on a pendulum squat and the leg extension, I just remove the leg extension, add more sets of a hip press, and remove a couple of sets of the pendulum squat. So now I'm getting as much stimulus as possible in that area. On certain exercises, like today I was asked if they could stop doing a seated leg curl because it was a hoist machine that just feels super cumbersome, to doing a lying one. And it's absolutely, like there's no exercise that's going to be able to substitute that exercise. It's not like a dumbbell chest press or a barbell bench press and like a machine flat press and a hammer strength flat press. Like all of these are the same thing. Like with legs, you don't really have that possibility all the time. It's kind of like with a calf raise. It's like, what else can you fucking do? Like you're gonna do a calf raise of some way, right? It could be a toe press. It could be a vertical one. It could be like just a billion ways, but it's still gonna be a calf press. So regardless of what it is, you want to log it. You want to make sure you have that data, and you want to keep an eye on it. Like just know that this thing is happening. For my daily check-ins, I answer about 15 questions every day for my check-ins, and I'm always logging like, is there any joint pain, any tenderness, or anything like that? Because if there is, I make adjustments. So like I don't wait like 3 weeks so that I'm feeling pain to then be like, okay, I should raise the rep ranges. No, going to the gym, I'll be like, yeah, today I'm just gonna drop the weight and raise the rep ranges a little bit. That's more of like something you do a little bit more advanced, I would say, just so that you're not undershooting the stress that you're putting on the muscle. But it is something that as you learn how to do, you should implement that all the time. It's just like basically periodization within the smallest block, which is the week. You can just periodize within that like, okay, this session I'm just going to move a little bit. Like I'm going to do higher rep ranges. I'm going to take an executive decision, like swap this exercise order here to see if that feels better, because today I'm just not feeling good and stuff like that. So those are things that, if you're a little bit more advanced, that's a good option. Can you guys hear this? This is
Yeah, with pain, a couple notes on my experience with it. I did have weird knee pain on seated hamstring curls. I think it was that I was doing it too heavy, and I was like probably, I don't know, I was probably pulling with the backs of my knees to try to get the weight to move versus like with my actual hamstrings or the larger part of my hamstrings. So I simply reduced the weight on those. But then for pendulum squat, I was having knee pain. And so you swapped, I think you added sets of leg extensions before, and I get a nice little pump, and I don't feel any discomfort whatsoever when I do pendulum squat now. And then I had an issue with shoulder pain that was being caused by like overhead, or I don't know if that's considered overhead, extending my shoulders like this and for a pull down, for like a wide pull down. And I think that something is messed up with this side of my, I don't know, scapula and that kind of stuff. But I basically just adjusted where my hands were per your instructions, and it seems to have resolved the issue. I also took a break for a little while.
I actually suggested using a different handle. so that you're doing a neutral
Yeah.
grip. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If I can't match the same number of reps for a set of an exercise, should I add another set to equal out the total number of reps or add an additional set to failure?
No, you just didn't hit the mark, and that's entirely okay. Now, if you are a bodybuilder or if you're serious about this thing, it's definitely not okay. Okay, I'm saying it's okay for people that just want to be healthy and you're just doing this thing. It's definitely okay for those people. Sure as shit is. Now, we have to remember that the logbook is a diagnostics tool. It's not a goal, right? So it's not like you have to hit those reps every week or something like that, right? Like you can just switch the referee, so to speak, or like what you're being judged by or what the criteria is, and it makes it like entirely different. So say that instead of going by, like trying to hit the same number of reps, you're going by trying to maintain the same rate of RPE. So say the same rate of perceived exertion. Like every time, it should be an 8 out of 10. It may be that you slept like shit and doing about 3 reps less now feels like an 8 out of 10. So you stop there so that you don't bury yourself in the ground. Or it could be that, let's say you're doing an RAR gauge, right? So you're doing it by reps in reserve. If you're doing about 1 rep in reserve, it may just be that today 1 rep in reserve, for whatever reason, you just couldn't do it compared to what you could last week. Like if you don't use these tools at all, and I don't use them for the majority of people who are like beginners and like early intermediates, but later on I actually do use them a little bit. Like if you don't use them at all, like you could actually go in this week and you did 10 reps with 100 pounds, and it was like, you don't know this, but it was like 1 rep in reserve, 2 reps in reserve. And then next week you do 11 reps for 100 pounds. Well, now it was 1 rep in reserve. You didn't make any progress, but you got closer to failure. So it's just it's a perception thing that you think you're making progress when in reality you're really like not. Like it's not an evidence of progress. So you have to take the logbook with a grain of salt. Now, there's also like several reasons why you may this may have happened. One of them, it could be that you just like went super balls to the walls on an exercise earlier in the day, and your cognitive capacity just went to shit. So now, like I started my quad days now with a hip press. Fuck, I'm shaking. I can't like breathe, and I'm just like laying down on the ground on my second set, and I just like realized like, okay, man, like I have about 20 more sets of legs and everything to go. Like I need to just tone it down a little bit. So I just focus a lot on my breathing and everything to like make sure that those things are happening. Stimulus wise, a lot of things can't be tracked, right? So like you might not be paying attention at the speed that the bar is moving or at the range of motion, but like going from a 75% range of motion to an 80% is actually progression.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not be able to log that because you don't write notes or you don't reflect on your training and stuff like that. So the more you actually spend time and care for this thing, the easier it becomes for you to realize like, okay, like I'm progressing because of this reason. I'm not actually like progressing because of this, or I'm not actually making any progress or something like that. So like we with you, like we swapped the rep ranges from higher rep ranges to lower rep ranges. It will take a minute for her like body to adapt to these new rep ranges. So in the beginning, it feels like you're making a ton of progress.
Yeah.
And that can be a tool that you can use with people to then like if they're just having trouble seeing their progress, you could do this and it could be helpful for them to actually see progress that they haven't seen in a long time. And that could generate a better training performance, which would in fact lead to the outcome that we want, which is the fucking stimulus in the first place. So that's something to think about. But the stretch, the squeeze, the connection, the range of motion, like all of these things, we in general, we're not really like taking a look at this stuff. And we shouldn't have a mindset of chasing the numbers. We should chase the same quality, and you should try to like make better quality. It's very, very easy to slip from going to like perfectly executed reps with this weight to just like trying every week to make the weight go up. Here's the thing. Unless you're a beginner, you don't try to make the weight go up. The weight goes up and you're like, whoa, that was cool. Like that is the adaptation. The adaptation is not you trying to make this thing works. If you think that you should be trying to do this thing, you're either a beginner, which in that case, sure, do that. You probably should do that. But if you're not, you're probably looking at it in the wrong way. You're looking at progressive overload as a method for growth, and it's not a method. It is the result. It's the adaptation that has taken place. So
Yeah, I think what I typically do, or how I think about my numbers that I'm logging, is I do reference, I forget what I do. My working memory it struggles. So I just look and see, okay, what did I do last time? How many reps? If it's like at the cap of the rep range, then I'm like, okay, let's start there. Let's see how I do. And if I do that and I am 2 reps over my cap, then I'm like, okay, let's throw 5 more pounds on there, depending on whatever the exercise is. Let's throw some more weight on there and see if I can hit the minimum amount, you know, and then so it's kind of a gauge of where to start. But after the first set, that'll tell you what to do for the next set, or the next 2 sets, or the next 3 sets, you know, in my opinion. And then I also will have sometimes when I'm like progressing, or I've been at the same weight for a very long time, and then one session I just like can't do the reps for any of the sets. Like I've just dropped 2 reps, and I'm just like, what the heck? And I know what it feels like when I start to approach failure. So, and that's just from doing the exercises often. So it's not like I literally like, oh my gosh, I can't move anymore, drop the weights. You know, I just feel like, what? I'm already at this point. Why? But then the next week I'm back. So sometimes it's just having to do with, like you're saying, fatigue, sleep. But I tend to ask, well, one, to just kind of take mental note and kind of think about what the causes might be, communicate it on your check-in. But typically it's like it doesn't matter until it's a pattern.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's a pattern.
Over weeks and weeks.
As we're like trying to find the causes, like sometimes there may be no cause. There's a study. I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it was like something between 10 and 30% actually, that these elite athletes have their performance drop or go up for no fucking reason. Same diet, same sleeping schedule, same training program, like same thing. Like, for some reason, it just today didn't fucking hit, didn't fucking make it work, right? So, like, I hold my, we're not talking about, like, a performance athlete. We're talking about, like, actual lifting. So, if I go to the gym, I'm going to do the same number of reps that I did last week, at least for my first set. So, my first set, I'm always aiming at that. Now, because I go, like, super crazy with the first set, maybe that the second set drops a little bit. If that happens, I just rest a little bit longer, and then I see the third set going up, actually, compared to what the second was. So, like, you have to know, like, what you're looking at, because the logbook can look super fucking weird, but I will write notes. I would just, like, write longer rest, and then, like, 10 reps. Or be like, oh, it felt really good after the second set. Like, I did this different or something like that. Like,
absolutely.
Just thinking about what you're doing may actually be much more beneficial than just trying to hold the reps, And we've talked about this in other, like, with regards to other phases, like fat loss. You have to hold those reps. If it's a health phase or maintenance phase, you're coming out of a cycle or something like that, you have to hold
fight
that shit.
For them.
You have to fight for the muscle that you just gained, or the muscle that you have gained over the past few months. Like, you have to. So there's an attitude, and there's a time and a place for that conversation as well. I just want to make sure that we know that these two things can be truth simultaneously.
And I just remember when you had critiqued my laying hamstring curls, and I had, especially on this side, my hip kind of pops up, like my pelvis tilts really bad. And I remember as soon as I started implementing the cues, pushing my pelvis into the thing and extending the legs out like this. Oh my gosh, my reps dropped, and I was like, what the heck? This is so much harder. But I was at least doing it correctly then, and I was providing the muscle with more stimulus so I could work my way back up to what it was when I was cheating.
Yep.
What is it about controlled slow movements that are so much better?
Yeah, I guess the question could be worded as like, why is it that you fucking tell people to control the weight so fucking much, right? Like, control here means that the target muscle is actually the muscle that's being worked on. That's the number one thing that you want to actually accomplish by being controlled.
CrossFit.
It could also be that you are spending less time in mechanically disadvantageous positions, also known as wrong form, but wrong form doesn't exist. That you have less risk of injury. That's a translation from less unnecessary movement. Right, so you have less unnecessary movement, therefore, it's a possibility of less injury risk because of being spending less time in mechanically disadvantageous positions. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And emotionally, it may also help you feel a little bit more in control and not feel like a fucking maniac psycho that's just like here for
Slamming
the
weights.
kill, just like ready to like murder, the weight and stuff like that. It's like, no, you don't need all of that mental load, like literally that's gonna chase you for days. That's just gonna raise your fatigue so much, like once you've learned what that intensity looks like, you're able to modulate that stuff. And for the people that are watching that, they are like shooters and things like that, it's like, man, that whether you are able to modulate your performance at a match by 3%, right?
Mm-hmm.
The majority of people cannot. So if you have to recognize the same thing with lifting. So like, if I tell you to go like 2 or 3% more, can you modulate that? Like if you can't, and if it might be a drop of like 15% or 30%, like every time that I train with someone and they tell me how many reps they're able to do, they magically do more reps. It just happens, like that doesn't happen with me when I'm training with other people. So like, what's the point, right? It's like, there's an argument there of like me not benefiting from training with other people as much as other people do, but there's still the point of you just have to know what these things are so that you're able to modulate them. But in the sense, like that's why we do it. Less injury risk. We do it because you are like emotionally more in control, and we do it because it creates the best environment to actually stimulate the target muscle, not just muscles in general.
Sweet. All right, ready for rapid fire?
Yeah, rapid fire questions that we got from people on Instagram. So let's shoot them.
Do I need perfect form to build muscle, or just good enough form?
Yeah, so the question of form is an interesting one. This is not a super rapid fire question, but there is no such thing as wrong form. It's just that you may be at a mechanically disadvantageous position to the task at hand. So if the task at hand is to lift as much weight from the ground as possible, like in a deadlift, keeping your spine hyperextended is not going to help you lift that much. If you keep your spine entirely rounded, it's not going to help you. But you know what does help a lot? Keeping your spine neutral. So we keep the spine neutral for the purpose of the task. Now, what if you are someone recovering from an injury and you need to actually train your back through multiple ranges of motion? Well, then actually doing that and like having a more curved back might be beneficial, right? Or let's say swapping it to doing a Jefferson curl as opposed to doing a deadlift or something like that. Like that's just how you need to think about. But there's no like good or bad form, really, like properly speaking. Do you need good form to grow muscle? Absolutely the fuck not. You do not. You definitely do not. You're gonna stimulate whatever the fuck it just so happens that you stimulate. So like, a lot of people say like, oh, from the beginning, like beginners just need to like just go super heavy, man, and not worry about this shit. And I'm like, yeah. And then they come to me with their fucking like bodies all fucking weird that don't make any sense. I'm like, why is your arm so big and you have no chest? I'm like, oh yeah, man, I never felt my chest. I was like, who told you to just keep slamming the weights and growing? So now we're gonna have to like basically stop all of your arm development and put that on hold to just work on your chest for the next like 2 years if you're natural. Like, damn, like that doesn't sound very good. So do it right from the beginning. Remember, like, what is the task at hand? The task at hand is to stimulate the chest, stimulate the hamstrings, stimulate the calves, or like whatever it is. Just do the exercise with the best form for the purpose of that, right? So like you can think of it of a bodybuilder and a powerlifter. A powerlifter coming to do a chest press, right? Like they're going to retract their scapulas as much as possible. They're going to tuck their elbows in. Why? Because it's easier to raise the fucking weight this way. We're not trying to make it easier. We're at bodybuilders. We're trying to make the job harder. So we actually like move the scapulas to be a little bit more neutral. We don't squeeze them together. We can keep the shoulder blades down, but if we're trying to get the upper part of our chest, well, maybe it's advantageous to actually switch the shoulder blades up and just do something a little bit different. And not a lot of people like like are aware of, right? Like you can just try different things, but it has to be dictated by the purpose of the task. What's the purpose? That's your job. So whatever does help you execute that job better, do that.
Should I change exercises often or stick with the same ones to master them?
Yeah, you stick to the same ones to master them. That's just there's no such thing as like muscle confusion. Your muscles have no fucking clue what it is that's going on anyways. They don't have a brain, you do. Like there's not a point. And it used to be a thing in the past that people talk a lot about that. I used to train that way as well. But it's just not really a thing. You want to the more time you spend with these exercises, the better you become at them. So you become better at actually stimulating the target muscle with those exercises. So spending a lot of time with them is good. It's like one of the exercises that I have best connection with is like fucking pendulum squats, right? Because I've been doing them for like a year and a half now, nonstop. Like every single week, at least once a week, I'm doing pendulum squats. And I feel like people just switch things too much. Whenever they're like, oh, I'm just kind of tired, I just want to try a different machine. I was like, okay, it's going to take you like, say, 2-3 months to like bring up your neural capacity to match what you're doing. So like you lost 3 months there just to learn this new movement pattern. Like how much more are you getting from this movement over the other ones? Like you just got a 3-month break in your progress. Like why? It was like, oh, but the weights are going up. It was like the weights are going up for other reasons, dummy. They're not going up because of this. So yeah, just stick to this shit. I know it's boring and I know it's repetitive, but the progress actually happens in the boring and the repetitive. This is the case with every area of life. So yeah.
Yep. Does mind-muscle connection really matter, or is it just bro science?
In general, it's bro science, in the sense that we don't have studies proving anything, right? I'm going to say that it matters, and I'm going to say that the studies do not actually apply to the people that we're talking about. Whenever we're talking about, like, you see a study, and it's like, oh, advanced trainers have been doing this. It's like, who are these advanced trainers? Because very likely, they're fucking basketball players. Like they're not advanced lifters, like people who are actually in the gym for several years and decades. You get those guys, man, they're able to stimulate their muscles so much better with just fewer sets, less weight. Like don't you think it's weird that you see guys at the gym that are so much bigger, sometimes using less weight? It's not just because of steroids, it's also because they're able to generate more of a stimulus without needing so much weight. So it's definitely a thing. It's just that we don't have studies that either prove or disprove. When we measure like EMG data, not very useful like in the first place, but measuring like the activation of the muscle with these advanced versus novice lifters and stuff is like, what were the rep ranges? Because if it's like 5 reps, then everybody's obviously doing the same thing. But put them in to do like 15 or 18 reps, like then things are going to change, right? Like just pick up a random exercise and have them do it. Like just have them activate the muscle without any machine or anything like that. Like I do feel like there is a whole lot to mind-muscle connection, which is why I like pretty much like tell people to be aware of that, and having that mind-muscle connection is very important. It's also going to be a proxy again of you stimulating the target muscle.
If I'm not sore, did I even train hard enough?
We just answered that one. So yeah, you're like, you could have trained hard enough, but whatever. We answered that one.
What are signs I'm under-recovered even if I'm sleeping a lot?
Sleeping a lot doesn't mean that you're recovering well. If you wake up in the morning and you feel like shit and you have to drag yourself out of the bed, you're probably not recovered as much as you need to be. Or like this one here, yawning. This is fucking boring as Nathan just started talking.
That's not why I'm yawning.
No, she just wakes up very early. So like if you are like under recovery, you're probably going to have other areas. Like you're probably going to deal with a lot of brain fog. Your appetite might be shot. Your joints might be actually like screaming for help. Your digestion may be like a little bit messed up. Like you may not be able to digest food as well because you might be in that like sympathetic place and not going down to like the rest and digest place so often and things like that. So those are some of the signs that you can look for, and I guess we could do a podcast episode on recovery at some point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do I know if I'm overtraining?
I think overtraining is bullshit. So I think that the majority of people do not have to worry about overtraining. I think you need to drive such a massive fucking hole that most people don't even have the capacity to get there to overtrain in the first place. Plus, most people are eating plenty and they're very much sleeping as much as this dog is right now. Like, I don't see a lot of reason for overtraining. Like if you're enhanced, you're recovering so fucking well, man. Like like who are we talking about here that is overtraining? I don't really think overtraining is that much of a thing. I think that our like obsession with fatigue management because of our other responsibilities in other areas of life has driven us to the point that like, hey, if you get a little bit fatigued, that's already a sign that you're overtrained. It's like, no, that's probably a sign that you're just training. Like if you finish a leg day and you're just all fucking happy and dandy and just like talking to everybody and just walking, you could go for a run, you could do cardio or something like that. It's like you did not fucking train hard. Like you don't have to worry about fucking overtraining.
When is it time to retire a lift that keeps flaring something up?
So after we covered all of those points, right? Like remember the exercise selection is the last one. So that's the last point. If everything else failed and we're still not being able to get rid of that pain or progress with that pain, we move the exercise away. But we do try all of those things first. We don't just jump straight into it.
How do you balance pushing hard with staying healthy? What?
Yeah. Like how do you balance pushing hard? Like you're pushing exercise, and you're pushing drugs, and you're pushing your recovery capacity, and all of these things. It's
I see.
you're pushing amounts of food. Like it's hard. You have to think about what is actually that you're doing. If you're trying to prioritize health, I always tell people who are trying to prioritize health, like, tell me a little bit of like what do you do for fun and stuff like that. Like I had a conversation with someone a while ago who was telling me that they wouldn't do. I don't remember what the peptide was, but they wouldn't like take some peptides and stuff because of health concerns. It was like, we just don't know what it does. And I'm like, well, but you shoot. So you're around lead. So your IQ is going down. You have a lot of like brain toxicity going on. Just oxidative stress is at an all-time high. We don't seem to worry so much about that. So I always push back to see if people are actually like really want health or if they just want balance. Because balance is not health. Like health is like health. You don't drink, you don't fuck up your sleep, right? Like you're focused on physical health. You focus on your well-being and like spending time with people and doing things for fun within the boundaries of physical health. That's like the primary thing. So I always just like to make sure that we're actually talking about the same thing. And it might be that like, hey, I'm being honest with myself, for the next 10 years, I'm not going to be prioritizing my health. Like I'm going to prioritize my health after that, right? I'm just going to be healthy enough that I don't have any issues whatsoever. In other words, I'm healthy, but I'm not. That my priority is not that. My priority is to add fucking 80 pounds of muscle. That's my priority. My priority is to not be able to walk anymore. I want to just fucking waddle. Like that's my priority for now. And then after that, I'm going to worry about my health. I'm going to drop a lot of muscle mass. I'm going to lose a lot of muscle purposefully to be healthy. So you can choose as like, hey, for the next like 2 years, I want to gain some more muscle, and I'm happy to push. With those people, I usually say like, no, there's no reason for us to like mess up your health to do that. We can actually do this with PEDs in a very healthy way, probably healthier than you are right now, actually. But like if you are a bodybuilder, you can't really. The safer use model is for regular people. It's for people that have like high goals within the gym, but it's not for bodybuilders. The safer use model is not for competitive high-level bodybuilders. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the last question.
Okay, well, for next week, we're going to have a conversation with scientific Snitch. So I hope you guys are super excited for that one. We had a fun conversation with her, just everything about muscle growth, calories, studies, what are the flaws with studies, bias in academia, and
What
all this type of
she's working
stuff.
on,
Like, yeah,
super
the research
interesting.
she's working on and everything. It's a very, very good podcast episode. And if you guys have other guests that you would like us to interview, send us a message. Tell us who this person is, or if you would like to talk to us, just shoot us a message on why. Like, why should we talk to you? Because I'm open to meeting new people as well, and I'm excited for the next couple of episodes. We had some fun and funny ones that I've had some ideas about, so we might do those in the future as well. But in any case, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out and bye.
Bye.